Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. And like I mentioned, I'm just assuming that you're here at the very last session on the very last day of a action-packed, long, intense conference, which means you want to be here. And that's fantastic. And that's going to help set the stage for a good workshop. So this is the peer coaching workshop. And so what we're going to be doing, our goal with this is to help you understand what peer coaching can be, what it can look like. Some of you may have experience with coaches. Some of you are like, I don't even know what that means. Are you talking soccer? Are you talking basketball coach? So we'll leave you with a better understanding of what that means, what it looks like, what it can mean for farmers. The way we're going to do that, we're going low tech. Morgan and I are going to be doing a little bit of presenting, a little bit of talking, but we're also going to be having some activities, that sounds like a little too much. Just an opportunity for you to engage with your neighbor in an easy way. And so we're going to keep this pretty informal. Our big goal with how we want to do this is to get some discussion going. So I'll give you a brief overview of this project, that we've got some SARE funding to help get going. You'll have a chance to talk with each other. Morgan's going to share her experience as being one of the farms who's been on the receiving end of coaching. And then I think we're still going to have plenty of time to kind of dive into a couple of coaching tools with the idea that you're going to leave this conference with something practical that would be helpful to you. How's that sound? Awesome. So I do want to mention also, so this was Diane Meyerfeld that will be bopping back and forth between the two sessions. She is the SARE coordinator. So this was a SARE funded program. That's why it's in this block of time at the conference. So I have information for her and about SARE grants and funding. And so if you have questions about that, grab her info at the end. Or you can grab her because she's going to be here bopping back and forth. So at some point I might yell out, "Hi, Diane," and then everyone can turn around and say, "Hi, Diane," together. And we'll greet her, make sure that she feels seen and welcome. Okay, what other logistics? So I think that I'll just introduce myself and then kick it back to you. If I'm missing anything else, logistics-wise, it'll come back to me. So my name is Doug Woobin. I am a life and leadership coach, focusing on mental fitness. Been doing that for a few years. I've also currently work as a nurse. I've been in the nursing field for the last 12 years. Currently working at the VA in Madison, where I work with the High Reliability Initiative, which is a cultural change initiative working to improve patient and staff safety by increasing psychological safety, flattening the hierarchy that exists within healthcare so that people can more easily speak up and interact and work better together as teams. Love that work. But before I was a nurse and before I was a life coach, I spent 14 years in the food and farming world, growing, managing my own diversified vegetable operation, ran a CSA, farmer's market, did some wholesale, and then went into activism and supporting local food and farms through a couple of nonprofits in the Madison area. The CSA Coalition, I was one of their first staff people in its early days, and got a bunch of farm to school programming started through REAP Food Group and the Center for Integrated Agricultural Systems. So this is a full circle moment for me, getting to come back here. I came to this conference annually for many years, and I haven't been in a while. And so I've loved the conference and super excited to be here doing this work. And there's really two reasons. So with our introductions, we're like, this is who we are, and then why are we here? Why am I inspired to be here doing this coaching workshop? Two main reasons. One, that I'm now coming out of a different industry, healthcare, that is also filled with deeply caring people who are passionate about their work and are engaged in what can be some very rewarding work. And it's the type of work that can take everything you'll give it. And that's a recipe for burnout. And so you see high rates of burnout in that industry as well as in many others, but including food and farming. So I support any efforts to try to help farmers navigate that dilemma. And I see this as one of those avenues. The other reason that I'm inspired to be here is I distinctly remember a specific day when I was managing my vegetable farm. It was my first year managing it. And a friend of mine who was running a similarly sized CSA wanted to come see how we did pack out and harvest on CSA day. And so she was there helping and observing for the morning. And about midway through the morning, she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" And I was like, "Sure." And she said, "You are running around like a chicken with its head cut off. You can't do everything. You need to delegate to some of these fine people who are here to help you do this work this morning." And I was like taken aback and knew that she was absolutely right. I knew it in my body because I felt stressed. I felt anxious. I felt pressure. But I couldn't see how it was affecting other people. I thought that, well, that's just all in me, and I'm managing it. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm managing it. I'm getting through it again, and it is what it is, and assumed that that's how it needed to be. And her calling me out and pulling me aside helped me see that how much it was impacting everyone else around me, how much it was impacting my crew, and what it was doing to, even the efficiency of how we were operating. So, she wasn't officially a coach, but that was a coach move, kind of like, hey, you're in tunnel vision, and I'm going to help you broaden it in this moment. So I'm grateful for her for that. So that's inspiring me to be here. How about you, Morgan?
Can you hear me? Wow, we really can hear me too much. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Sneddon. I am owner and farmer at Fox at the Fork. It's a small-scale, diverse veggie farm located 40 miles south of Chicago in Moni, Illinois. I started my farm 3 seasons ago. I'm going into my 4th season in production. And before I was a farmer, I was a mental health counselor. So I actually have also seen the other side. It's almost as if Doug and I sort of did the reverse. Like he started in farming and went to healthcare. I started out in healthcare and went to farming. We didn't know that when we got here, but it just so happened that way. But the reason I left my work in mental health care was because I was experiencing burnout in that job. And my partner at the time had a career move that was shifting us from Chicago to New Jersey, and I decided to take that opportunity to just try something different. And mental health care, for those of you who don't know, the licensure is a state-by-state thing. So I had all my credentials in Illinois to be a counselor, but in New Jersey, I would have had to go back to school, more credit hours, all that. And since I was already burnt out, I'm like, no, thank you. I will just find a job on an organic vegetable farm instead. So that's what I did. The reason I had farming on the mind was because in my education as a mental health, I learned about therapeutic farms. They're typically equine therapy for the most part, horses. And I had a hard time finding a job on one of those farms, so I thought, the next best thing is vegetables. And it turned out I just loved growing food. It was awesome. I am a first-generation farmer. I didn't grow up growing food. So working on that organic farm in New Jersey really was my first foray into the world of, food at your fingertips. So long story long, I suppose. I worked for a couple seasons on different farms in New Jersey, from small-scale organic vegetable to large-scale organic vegetable to perennial herb, food forest type farm. I really got to see a wide variety of what farming can look like. And that inspired me in 2019 when my husband was feeling homesick and wanted to go back to Illinois to say, hey, let's get some land. I want to try and start a farm. So we got our land in 2019. December of 2019. Does anyone remember what happened next? It's all a blur because we were inside of our houses. It was the pandemic, a terrible time to start a business, so I decided not to. And instead, I went and worked on someone else's farm that was nearby, who happened to be a generational farmer, and he knew absolutely everybody in my town. So he was able to network and help me connect to some of the resources that I might not have otherwise tapped into as a newbie in the area. So that was really great. And now I'm going into my 4th season farming, and with thanks from my coach, I am excited about this season. I ended last season feeling very drained, disheartened, like not wanting to keep doing what I was doing, and coach is really what helped me turn that corner. So I'm inspired to be here today because I hope that if there is anyone in the room, or maybe you know a farmer who is feeling that way, feeling disheartened or just tired, or like they can't keep doing what they're doing the way they're doing it, there's hope. There's an opportunity to change your farm and have it be something different, and a coach is how I found a way to get there. So that's that.
Awesome, thanks, Morgan. Oh, and there's Diane. Everyone turn around and say hi to Diane. Hi, Diane. Thanks for being here. I'm going to give a super brief, high-level description of what this program was about, how it came about, and help differentiate coaching from other forms of assistance. And then we're going to jump into our first pair-up activity. So Katie Bishop is another farmer in Illinois. Some of you may know her. She was struggling in various ways with her own farm a number of years ago, found herself a coach, and really helped turn a lot of things around. Really helped turn things around with how she was approaching her work on the farm, helped with her relationship to her farm, helped with her relationships. She got super inspired. And if any of you know Katie, she when she has an idea, it tends to go big. And so she was like, I don't want to just figure out how to become a coach myself and help farmers. I want to help even more. So she approached FairShare CSA Coalition with this idea of, hey, what if we started a program that would bring in more coaches and then offer coaching to more farmers? And FairShare was that matched their mission quite well. With providing support in a variety of ways to farmers. So they got on board, and they birthed this idea, essentially, of they recruited a couple of other coaches, myself and Angie Sullivan is the 3rd coach. So there's 3 of us coaches that are helping with this pilot version of this program, and wanted to experiment with subsidizing it, making it as accessible as possible. And so they applied for some SARE funding, and that's what the SARE funding is for. Also got some money from Marbleseed to help seed it at the beginning. And this all just came together last summer. And so an advisory committee was formed. We've got a number of farmers on that committee. And Sarah Ugeritz and Claire Strader, at the time anyway, from FairShare, were very involved in the formation of this. So a whole bunch of people, and including a main extension agent, Leslie Forstad, who manages a farmer coaching program out there. So we got some input from a number of people. We have our advisory committee members that are farmers going through the coaching program themselves so that they can give us feedback on it. And we are in the midst of serving 20 farmers at the moment, looking to bring on another 20 or so in the next year, year and a half as part of this pilot. Most of those farmers are, if you're an upper Midwest vegetable grower, you qualify for a subsidy to help make the cost even more affordable. But we have farmers that are receiving the subsidy. We have farmers that are paying the full amount, which is currently set at $1,200. And that is a year-long engagement with a coach. So, and includes, in its current iteration anyway, 5 one-on-one sessions with a coach, and then opportunity to engage in between those sessions. So we're already getting feedback from our advisory committee and looking to tweak some of that, but that's the general framework of the program, is that you get connected with a coach who gets to know you and helps you figure out what you need. So it's very, very individualized. And so then more information about the specifics of that, how to sign up and all that is at the CSA Coalition's website, csacoalition.org. And I've got some flyers we'll pass around in a little while too with that info on it. So that's kind of the general framework. We're very much in the midst of the pilot, so it's an experiment that we're in the middle of. So then what is coaching? So when I think about, I like to describe coaching by describing other forms of assistance that people engage with. So there's technical assistance where I'm an expert in something that you need some help with. I know irrigation systems, I know marketing, I know how to manage finances. And then you come to me and we sit down and I provide you some technical assistance with that topic. Hopefully in a way that's tailored for you, but technical assistance comes in all kinds of forms, right? But that's technical assistance. And then there are mentors. Hopefully everyone in this room has at least one mentor, somebody who has traveled the path that they are currently on and are a little bit further ahead than them. Maybe they're only a couple of steps ahead of you. Maybe they are many, many years ahead of you. The point is, a mentor has a little more wisdom, a little more experience than you do that you can lean on, that you can ask questions of. And it's a fantastic relationship to develop when you can. So I fully support people doing that. And there are lots of people that I meet that want to be mentors. There are lots of people who have a lot of experience that would really cherish the opportunity to share that and develop that kind of relationship with someone looking for it. So just know that. And then there's therapy. Maybe I'm struggling with mental health issues and I need someone to really dive into that, help me figure out, is there a diagnosis that would be helpful to explain what's going on, what I'm struggling with? Is there some medications I might need to be involved in? I just need someone that I can trust and really help sort through whatever it is I'm going through. And that's kind of a general, vague way of describing therapy, and the therapist might have some other things that she might want to say about it, but I do that intentionally because I've engaged with therapy at different junctures in my life at different times, and they've all been incredibly helpful. And they haven't always been like a time when I'm really, really struggling. It's just, I'm going through a transition and this is challenging. I need someone to help me over this bump. So that can be useful for therapy too. But certainly if you're at a stage where you struggle like functioning on a day-to-day basis, then that's squarely in a therapy realm. Very useful. So then what's coaching? Coaching, actually can pull in elements of these other areas. So there might be a little bit of technical expertise at hand. A coach may have traveled down the similar road that you're on. Coaching certainly brings in some therapeutic tools here and there, but they're not presenting to you as the expert on your life. They're there to listen to you and help you find your own answers. And they start, and I'll say me, I start with a belief that you know what you need to do, but there's things that get in the way of that. And what I know is how to help you clear some of that out so that it feels more clear to you. So there may be times, everyone in here can probably think back to times where you're like, I was clear as a bell that I was on the right path, doing the right thing, this feels right. And then other times where it's like you're just questioning that and you just feel a little lost in it. And so a coach can help kind of sift through that and help bring some more clarity so that, so that you can help make clearer decisions. So there's lots more I could say about that, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you want to add as kind of the overview or description? All right. So this might have already generated some questions, and that's fine. Jot them down. In fact, if you do have a paper and something to write with, that's going to be useful a little later on. So, and you can jot down any questions that are coming. We're definitely going to make space for that. But what we want to do now, because we've already been talking a lot, is to give you a chance to chat. And you're going to talk with one other person in the room, ideally somebody that you don't know. But whatever, you can choose your buddy that you're with as well. And what I want you to do before you're pairing up, what I want you to think about is You know, you came to a coaching workshop and maybe you knew what coaching was. So some of you might be here thinking, oh, I hope I can get some coaching on this topic. Maybe you've got something that you're thinking about. So that's what I want you to talk about with this other person. If you could get some coaching on something, what would it be? Maybe it's related to your farm, maybe it's related to your business, maybe it's just related to your family, your life in general. It might be something that maybe it's a goal that you've been trying to reach for a while and you just can't get traction with it. Or maybe it's something you're struggling with. Another way to think of this question is if you could have a magic wand and wave it and change one thing in your life, in your business, whatever it is, what would that be? What would you just love to just be able to change? And also, I'm going to invite everyone to think about, for this activity and for the workshop in general, keep it focused on you. Of course, there's lots of things we might want to change about other people in our lives. Maybe there's some circumstances in our immediate vicinity or the world at large we'd like to change with our magic wand. We're going to keep it focused on us, because that's something that we can have more control over. Okay, so then I'm going to give you like 3-4 minutes with your partner, and you're each going to get a turn to just talk about whatever's coming to mind right now. And if you can't think of anything, then maybe that's the thing you'd get some coaching on. I need some help figuring out what I could use some help with. So it can be that. So don't overdo this. Don't stress too much about the topic itself. Just take the opportunity to chat about this with somebody. And what I want to ask you to do when you're in the listener seat is really listen. Listen generously. This is not an opportunity for you to jump in and try to fix the person's thing. That's not what this is. This is you giving them some space to just talk for a few minutes, because we're only going to do this for a few minutes. So give each other time. I'll let you know when you're at the halfway point. Okay? Any questions? All right, go ahead and pair up, move around the room. This is your chance to get up and move too. Okay, that's the halfway point. If you haven't switched who's talking, go ahead and do that now. All right, thanks for doing that. Thanks for just jumping right into that, actually. That was fantastic. So we have just a few too many people to do a full go around. That's what I would love to do, is like have everybody share something. But instead, what I'm going to ask is for anyone who wants to, just to offer up like topics. Like what are some of the topics that are coming out? And I'm going to write some of these down. What's
in general, I think like scale, like what scale fits your operation, and for me specifically, the scaling down makes sense. So I'm at a distribution level, but getting into more direct markets, is that gonna even out? Just kind of a general question.
okay?
Or topic.
Thanks. What's your name?
Bjorn.
Bjorn. Thanks, Bjorn. Who else?
I guess reassessing and reviewing the business, kind of like why you like it and what would keep you going. You know, do I want to continue doing just reassess and reboot?
Did you say reboot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like restart the computer.
Nice. What's your name? Laura. Thanks, Laura.
John and I talked, and one of the things I shared was just kind of as I start my new farm, it's just the fear of the unknown. And all of the things that I've taught myself through just having a little incubator for 10 years is, am I on the right track? Am I making good decisions? And, don't want to make such a setback where it just puts me behind. And so these are kind of some anxieties that I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. What's your name? Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Hey everybody, my name is British. Something that we were talking about is sustaining, having, like being a full-time farmer without having to rely on another full-time job.
Thanks, British. Anyone else? I know you probably can't read any of that. It's not just because of my handwriting, because of the size, but that's, we might be able to refer back to some of those topics later. So thanks for doing that. Let me ask now, what was that like to be listened to by somebody and getting to just talk about whatever it was that you were talking about? Did that feel like something you get to do on a daily basis? Like you've got somebody? Oh, that's fantastic. Most groups that I get to do work with do not say that.
Kind of on that note, I guess that it's nice to talk to like another producer or something. Personally, I don't have like a mentor in my area or like what I'm doing.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of, and I don't have like, doesn't matter, like I'm single, so my parents get to be dumped on a lot with these issues. And it's like they don't really know,
Yeah.
you know, the ins and outs. So it's just nice to have a community of people in similar, you know, similar situation or.
Yeah. Can understand, have some context, more context for what you're sharing. Yeah, wonderful. When you were in the listener role, did anybody struggle with not chiming in and jumping? Raise your hand if you struggled with that a little bit. Yeah. Who, and why is that? Why do we struggle with that? ADHD.
Society can be really solution-oriented, kind of like, or even a family system. Like, I think I grew up in a family where it's like, quick, offer solutions, fix it, fix it, fix it, you know, and sometimes it's just good to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Like we're very solution focused. Like, and what's that?
We want to help.
And we want to help. It comes from a good place, right? Like someone's presenting a problem, I want to help out. And that's often how we're probably working with ourselves on a daily basis. Oh, there's this problem, let me fix it. What do I do to fix it? Also, what's also happening though in those situations sometimes is that someone is, like, especially if someone is sharing something that they're struggling with, or there's some like discomfort that they're having, that can be hard to sit with. That can make me uncomfortable if I'm the one listening. And so then sometimes I feel uncomfortable, and so I want to fix it quick, so that we can move on, because I don't want to kind of be in that space. So sometimes that happens. So there's all kinds of things that get in the way of us really being able to listen well. And so I had a lot of nodding heads when people were like, oh yeah, I got people who listen to me, and I think that's fantastic. So do whatever you can to cherish those people and encourage them, because it's really, really important and helpful to have that in your life. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Thanks for doing that. We're going to shift into now is, oh, and also let me just name, some of you might be like, there's 5 of you, there's 5 people listed in the program for this, and there's only 2 of you. What happened to the other 3? And so I'll just name that there were initially, months ago when we first planned this, 5 of us going to be here. Katie and Sarah were unable to stay for the full conference, so they had to bow out, but our second farmer, Joanne, was here at the conference and planning to do this with us, but she fell ill yesterday. So she unfortunately had to leave early from the conference, and so that's why it's the Morgan and Doug show. So this next section, what we're gonna do is, I've got some questions and some prompts for Morgan. We're gonna interview Morgan, because she was one of our farmers who got some coaching, and we're gonna find out, why did she do that? And what did she get out of it? At least that's what I think we're doing. Hopefully that's what you were expecting too. Okay, so Morgan, if you think back to before you started coaching, what was going on in your world that made you want to consider getting coaching support? What were you hoping to get out of it?
So, as Doug mentioned before, this program is relatively new. It came about in August, is that right? And I found out about it in August. Do I have any other farmers who know what August is like? Yeah, it was August, so I needed help. Yeah, it was summer. I was in my 3rd season owning my own business, and I was working full-time with my spouse. And we had never worked together before, and this was our 2nd season doing that, and it had hit a breaking point. We were mad at each other all the time. I was teaching him how to farm. He hadn't worked on farms before, so there was a lot of kind of complicated dynamics going on. The result of that was a lot of emotional distress. Like, I was upset a lot, and my partner was upset a lot, and every single thing that we had to do for the business just felt like almost an impossible task, because vegetable farming is hard enough, and then if you add on that complication of like, and I'm doing it with someone who's supposed to be my #1 support, but the challenge of the context has made it such that neither one of us is supporting each other. And so I saw a Facebook post that FareShare was offering this grant assistance money for coaching. I started my own business. I think a lot of farmers can relate to the fact that it's hard to spend money in the beginning and maybe even in the long term. And then it's particularly hard perhaps to spend that money on yourself and not your farm. Pretty much in the beginning, I was in the mindset of all my money coming in goes back to the farm. That's how I'm gonna build this business. So when I saw that grant money come around, I'm like, oh, what an opportunity. I can help myself and get money for it. So that's actually really what drew me in personally, was I felt like the financial incentive was there. And then additionally, on top of that, I had seen that Katie Bishop was one of the coaches. And I am an Illinois farmer. I was familiar with her story. I knew that she had experienced some of these feelings of burnout with regard to annual vegetable production. And I also knew that she was in a better place now. And so I was curious, hey, Katie, like, what worked for you, you know? And so that combination of factors, the stress, the money, and having a coach that seemed like they would understand what I was going through was the reason why I decided to give it a try.
Nice. When you think about yourself currently, so your current version of yourself, like what have you been getting from coaching? Because you're in the midst of it still. So what have you been getting from coaching that you hoped for? What, if anything, have you been getting that you weren't expecting? Any surprises? And how has coaching been helping make progress on your goals?
So I would say that the main, one of my biggest takeaways from coaching has been I now have a framework through which I can look at my thoughts and my experiences on my farm. And that framework, in my case, something my coach brought up to me is a framework by Byron Katie. It's called The Work. But it's basically a series of questions that you ask yourself with regard to any given thought. And it helps you to kind of reassess if those thoughts are rooted in reality, or if perhaps they are thoughts that are maybe just getting in your way. And so the series of questions is it true? Is it absolutely true? What happens when you believe this thought? And who would you be without this thought? And that fourth question, who would you be without this thought, gave me the space in the context of a safe listening relationship to really think about, whoa, like who would I be if I wasn't thinking this way? So as an example of one thing I was able to work through with this framework, I had this idea that if I were to stop growing annual vegetables, I would be letting everybody down. I had spent 3 seasons building up my customer base at the farmer's market, and a lot of them are always super complimentary about the fact that they're very happy I'm there, you know? And so I had this thought that if I stop, what about all those people? They're gonna be so disappointed. So, okay, is it true? Are these people going to be disappointed? Maybe. Some of them, perhaps yes. Is it absolutely true? Well, I don't know. I can't ask every single one of my customers and be like, hey, are you gonna be disappointed if I stop growing vegetables for you? That would just not be practical. And ultimately, I think I did disappoint a few people. But I can't say with absolute certainty, as I'm thinking the thought, am I going to be disappointing everybody if I stop doing this thing? No, it's not absolutely true. There's no way for me to know that with certainty. Okay, so what happens to me when I believe this thought? If I believe that I'm letting everybody down, if I stop growing vegetables, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna keep growing vegetables.
No matter if you should or shouldn't.
Right, because I don't wanna let everybody down. And so that's exactly what I did. I just kept going, kept doing what I was doing, kept doing what I knew. But then there's that fourth question, who would you be without this thought? If I don't think I'm disappointing everybody by not doing annual vegetables, who am I? Oh, Well, if I'm not worried about disappointing people, then I don't need to spend my time doing the thing that makes me feel bad. I could do things that make me feel good. I want to be planting more trees. I want to be engaging more with perennial agriculture on my property, but it's something I had put to the wayside because I felt like I had to keep doing these annual vegetables. And so this framework, these questioning, and there's other ways to question your thoughts, but the important point really was to try to notice how you talk to yourself and try to notice these thoughts that come up when you're making decisions or even trying to think about the future. And try to think, are these thoughts helping me, or are they maybe holding me back? And so the framework is really one of my huge takeaways, and it's something that I use outside of even the farming context. You know, I think we all have some of these persistent thoughts that maybe get in our way. So I would say that's what progress is looking like for me right now, is just kind of working through, you know, those type of thoughts. I guess I just want to add here that I felt really at ease with Katie opening up about some of these things because she is a farmer. She's a peer, you know. She knows what it's like to feel like you're going to let everybody down. And so to say it out loud to her, she's like, yep, I get that. I've been there. And that was just really, it allowed me the space to feel comfortable to open up, having a peer as my mentor. I circled around the question, but I'm pretty sure I hit on perhaps what he was asking.
You totally did. That was fantastic. Okay, then now as you think about your future self, so as you think about the near future, what are you hoping coaching support will help you do, or help you feel, or help you accomplish?
So when I think about the near future, coaching has really helped me already to accomplish a game plan for my coming season. So I'm cutting my annual production in half this coming season. That's right, you heard me right. Half of my annual vegetable beds, I am no longer doing annual vegetables in those beds. And I have also pivoted to doing wholesale markets instead of farmers markets. So I was a solely farmers market-based farmer for the last 3 seasons, schlepping my stuff to that market, dragging it all around. Uh-oh, there's rain. Nobody showed up. That's right, I'm schlepping it back. And it feels terrible to do that, honestly. It's like it's so much physical labor. And then, you know, even if you do sell a lot of it, it's exhausting. So I have fortunately been able to get in touch with some wholesale accounts. I'll be able to sell in bulk. And they're still using my farm name. I'm still feeling that sense of pride behind my product. But I get my Saturdays back. I am a farmer who's going to have Saturdays. And so that feels so good. And so I think coaching going into the future for me is just sort of fine-tuning some of these game plans. But really, I put in a lot of time with Katie in the fall because I was thinking about a lot of this. I knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. And so, and I also know that winter is the time when I have time to make plans. So I spent a lot of this, the colder months, really trying to work with my coach to figure out what my farm was gonna look like. So I envision that my future coaching within the year of the cycle will probably be, hopefully, like celebrating some successes. One thing I really was surprised about coaching is the little ways my coach supported me and kind of was my cheerleader. Like, you know, Katie would send me a little text message or a little note in the mail just right at the right time. You know, you're having one of those days and you just get a little text from the coach, you know, about, it doesn't matter what, just some little boost. It was nice to have someone in my corner that understands what I'm going through. And then I was also surprised, it shouldn't have been surprising because I have training in mental health, but I was surprised to find out that most of the time it was me getting in my own way, you know. It's a hard truth to swallow, but like it's kind of you. That's the reality. That was hard for me to swallow, I think, anyways, because I like to think it's not me.
Really, really well put. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you and your partner still together?
Yes, I am. I'm still married. We'll see how it goes, you know. Change is the only constant as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm really looking forward is we've given ourselves, we acknowledged there was a problem. I think a lot of farmers will just keep going with the problem. So step one, we acknowledged there's a problem. And then we decided how can we shift and make things different so that we don't have to keep living the way we're living.
Does he still work on the farm with you?
No. Yeah. No, Josh is, we decided to pivot him back to off-farm work. This had a twofold reasoning behind it. Is one, it takes some of the financial pressure off the farm. So the last 2 seasons, the farm was our sole income, and that just really puts a lot of pressure on the situation. And additionally, it gets him in a different space than me, which is important.
Very practical. Love it. Last question from me. What advice would you provide a farmer working with a coach for them to get the most out of that experience? if someone were to choose to work with a coach?
I think it's very important to have a goal and set a clear goal for what you're trying to accomplish. It is fair to say maybe you don't know what your goal is, and that might be a place to start. But the coach's role is not to kind of tell you what your problems are. That's where you come in. You're the person that's there to say, this is what I'm experiencing, and I need some help with that. The coach is kind of like a sounding board, or just, a really good listener, someone to give you that space to just keep talking and talking and talking until you've figured out, oh, wait a minute. You'll have one of those aha moments, like, I had one of these with Katie. I remember it very distinctly. I was telling her, I'm going to disappoint all these customers, and I don't even know if I'll be able to sell any of my stuff. And within the same sentence, I was like, but I've had like 3 farmers markets reach out to me, and there's just too many opportunities, and I can't possibly do them all. And she's like, did you just hear yourself? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you literally just said that you're worried about not having opportunities in the same sentence that you said you have too many opportunities. And sometimes you just need someone else there to say, hey, did you hear that? You have your answer. It's right here. And so having a goal is great. And I also encourage anyone who's interested in coaching to be willing to put in the work. Because again, the coach can't do it for you. If you want to see changes in your life, you are the person that's going to have to instigate that change. So clear goals and a willingness to be part of the process is really, I think, all it takes. And a little grant funding.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Time check. I think we should jump into an activity, and then we'll open it up for some questions, and then we'll still have time to do a wrap-up at the end. So what I want to do for this activity is, if you've got something to write with and a paper, that would be fantastic, and if you don't, that's okay. But if you've got something to write with, what I want you to do is, well, raise your hand if you've got a to-do list in your head right now. Okay, I want you to write it down. Maybe not all of it, but write down a number of them. And if you're like, I've been reviewing my to-do list all day in my head, I don't need to write it down, that's okay too. Or you can use your phone. Yeah, good question. What time period? Yeah, not for the rest of your life, but like your to-do list for the next 2 weeks or the next week. Or if it's a long one just for today, then go ahead and just use today. Yeah, good question. And what I want you to do is look over your list, and you can still keep adding some things if you want. I want you to circle, pick 2. Circle 2 of them that are stressing you out the most, or that feel the hardest, or that have been showing up on your to-do list for months and you just keep not doing it. The sticky ones. Or it could just be one that you're just, I'm just not looking forward to this. And now what I want you to write down is the 3 Bs. This is the 3 Bs tool you're all going to work through with. And we're going to just start with, just pick one of your items. But the 3 Bs are bag it, barter it, or better it. So pick one of your to-do items to run through this process with. And I'll describe it briefly, and then we can even just use a couple and run through them as examples. Bag it is, do I have to do this thing? Do I have to do this thing that's on my list? What happens if I don't do it? What happens if I don't do it today? Maybe I don't have to do it today. Maybe I do it next week. Maybe I can put it off. Maybe it doesn't need to be done. Maybe it doesn't even need to be on my list. So that's the first question. Can I just take it off? If the answer to that is, no, it's got to stay. It's got to get done. Then the next question is, do I have to be the one doing it? Can I get someone else to do this? Can I have an exchange with somebody, pay them, do something for them, whatever the exchange is, so that I don't have to do it? Is that possible? You just ponder that. If the answer to that is, yeah, I want to be the one doing this, then the final question is, okay, then how can you better it? How can you make it a little better? And we can talk about lots of different ways to do that, but the point here is multiple points. Sometimes we just assume we have to do something, and it lands on our list, and it creates stress in the background of our heads, and we don't even have to do the thing. So like just asking that question can relieve a little bit of pressure. Sometimes the thing still needs to be there, and we think that we need to do it. Like my friend yanked me aside and told me on my harvest day, it's like, you don't have to do everything, or you actually can't do everything. So it's questioning that assumption that we make. Do I have to do it? Or is there some way I can get some help? And then the better part is, well, yeah, I've got to do it, and you know what, I've just got to suck it up and do it. Or I got to it's going to be a grind, and that's just the way it's going to be. Right? Like that's kind of our thought process sometimes with these things on our to-do lists. So the better it just gets you to question that a little bit. Back to what Morgan was saying, is it true? Like each one of these, you could just say, like, is it true with each one of these? Is it true that it has to be a grind? Is there a way to lighten the grind a little bit? Okay, but so let's talk about some specific examples and work through this. Who wants to work through their task through this process? Okay, what you got?
Well, my dad has some dementia, and I need to get he needs to move into assisted living, and he doesn't want to go. Can I bag it? No, he has dementia. He can't really take care of himself anymore. He lives by himself.
Well, what's the task? Let's get clear on the task. What's your task in this?
Well, try to get him to agree, or if not, to simply move him to assisted.
Okay, so it's falling onto you to get. Dad needs some help. He needs help, and okay. So, does it have to get done? Sounds like it.
We've talked it over a lot, and I really feel like it does have to be done.
Okay. Can you barter it? Do you have to be the one doing it? And it sounds like this is something that's weighing on you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's totally keeping me up at night.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very stressful. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I'm the one who lives the closest, and there's some, emotionally close to him, so
Okay.
I think it is me.
And I'm going to tweak this a little bit because this is a big one. This is a big thing. Is there a way to have assistance? So maybe, yes, I'm definitely going to be involved because I'm the closest. I'm the one that's closest. Okay. Okay. So it's not all on you. But you still can't totally have other people do it. Some of it's going to fall on you. So then we're to the last question, which is, okay, how can we better this?
I was thinking going out to dinner more during the time would be great.
Say more.
I don't know, just like not have, because I make a lot of meals at my house, and I enjoy making meals, but
Yeah, okay, so lightening the load in some other areas to like going out to dinner a little bit more. Just take some pressure off.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Any other ideas? How I get better at it?
I think I need some therapy during this time. So I think I should go get it. Because it's really stressful.
Yeah, that's a huge stressor. Huge stressor. Okay, all right. Does that feel complete enough just to talk that through? Okay, thanks for offering that. Appreciate that. Who else has got one? Want to run through? Yeah.
So, I moved in May last year, but I've been having remodeling done, so I had never really unpacked and organized. So everything takes longer than it should because I can't find stuff.
Hmm.
And I also have, over the last couple of years, several elders in my family have passed, and I have all of their stuff. And I am like the keeper
Of the stuff.
many things. So, so can I not organize? No, I have to because I can't function very well.
So, well, again, just to be clear on the task is
The task is
organizing the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, at your house?
the whole house.
Okay.
Needs, but I think there's a couple, but does it need to all be done at once? No. Can I put the family's heirlooms and stuff in a box and put it where I can't see it? Yes. And then that leaves, can I get help with it? Well, the remaining stuff is like my files, my personal things, not really, I have to do it, but, can I better it? I have some resources to help with organization, and I can sort of research those and implement them. And I can prioritize doing it before I get too much into the season.
Mm-hmm.
So like finish it in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I can prioritize the office is the most important, and then the living room, and then the bathrooms being remodeled downside. So there's order of priority.
Okay, so I heard a few things there. As you were thinking about the first question, can I bag this? You kind of broke it up into smaller pieces. So you have this huge task. There's a lot of stuff. Some of it's not even mine, and I'm managing. I can break that into smaller pieces and bag some of it. I don't have to deal with some of it. Put some of it out of sight, out of mind.
5 years from now, maybe.
Whatever, yeah, right? So, but that's, and then, but there's still some remaining. I can't bag all of it. So then I'm going to do it. And can I barter it? Can I get someone else to do it? No, sounds like there's stuff that's yours. You want to be the one doing it. And the language we use when we ask these questions and have this thought process is important. When we use the words "I have to," it has a very different feeling to it. And they've actually done research on comparing treatments for people with depression, therapy, just medication, or just getting rid of the words "I have to." And guess who won in terms of being helpful? Because when we think "I have to," I've lost all my control and power in that situation, and it's coming at me. So I choose to, I want to, and I did this when I was feeling burnt out, and I was an oncology case manager for a number of years, pretty burned out in that job for a time, and I was like, I got to go to work again today. And when I flipped that, when I started saying, I'm choosing to go to work today. Why am I choosing to go to work? Well, I want the paycheck, and I want to keep working at the hospital, and I don't have anything else. But as soon as I started flipping that, it started opening up some possibilities. So I'm choosing to do this thing. Now, what else could I choose to do? If I'm choosing this, I could maybe choose something else. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent, but really important piece of this where, okay, I'm choosing to do this thing, so I'm not going to barter it. Yeah, well, it's a big part of most of our vocabularies. You're absolutely not alone, for sure. So, and so then the better, you named a couple of things. What are some other ways you could just better this? Like you've got a priority list. It's going to happen. You're going to do more of it toward the now before the season gets busy. When I think of better, I think of anything. Like I'm going to do this for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to do something else. And then I'm going to do another 10 minutes and do it for something else. Or I'm going to do it for an hour, and then I'm going to have a chocolate break. Or I'm going to make my favorite tea, or I'm going to listen to my favorite music while I do the thing. Like those are all things, even little things like that, that can just make the task itself a little bit more enjoyable.
I'm gonna take care of like farm stuff first, or like all the stuff coming back from this workshop. I want to work that first, and then go back to doing it.
Yeah.
I have enough room on my desk where I
And that sounds like that feels enjoyable to you, because you're bringing some stuff back with you.
yeah.
Okay.
That's stuff that I want to keep as far as I have, because like that,
Yeah.
where it's stale.
Yeah.
But I also want to get this stuff organized before the season really hits, and then I'm tripping over boxes for the rest of the summer.
Yeah. Great.
Can I add something? One thing that I found really helpful from my coach as I was thinking about some of this stuff too is she would ask me, what's getting in the way? So you have whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, like what's getting in the way? Because sometimes you don't even know, right? And so then you have to kind of think, like, what is getting in my way here? And maybe it's these I have to thoughts, right? Maybe it's these I have to. And because I feel like I have to, I'm not gonna, because I'm stubborn. But maybe it's something else. But sometimes just kind of stopping to think like, what is the, why haven't I done it yet? What's getting in the way?
I think part of it's unrealistic expectations.
Well, kudos to you for taking on your space. Like all of us can think about spaces in our living, like we can all think about our living spaces, and all of us have there's a spot in all of our living spaces that we're like, I don't really like that thing, or I don't look at it, or it doesn't feel like it's functional, and we just kind of live with it. And I'll tell you, if you choose to take on that space and do something with it, it'll shift other things in your life. Like it's a thing. So the thing that you're like, at your space, even if you just do a little thing, like it doesn't have to be a big remodel, it doesn't have to be a whole ordeal, but even if you just do a little bit with it, get some movement on it. I'm realizing we didn't really make space for people to ask questions after all of your wonderful answers to the coaching question. So I want to come back to that. But first, any thoughts about this 3Bs tool? Any questions about it, or any other thoughts before we go back to other broader questions? Okay.
I would like to also just add to that sometimes as you start to think about these things, maybe you don't have an answer right now. Maybe, you're sitting here and you're kind of like, okay, well, I'll fill out the, yeah. But like maybe you're driving home, right? And then it's going to bubble up. This is what would happen to me. I'd have like a coaching session, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's all fine and good. But then during the week is when those thoughts come. They're there, lurking in the recesses, ready to come at you when you're alone with your tomato plants. So even if you're feeling maybe like these tools might not help you right now, you haven't felt relief right now from this workshop, it takes time, right? You got to give it a chance, and you got to give yourself a chance to think some of these things through. So,
What questions are bubbling up, just in general? We'll just open it up for a little bit.
How did you find out about the
Yeah, that's a great little prompt to pass around our flyers. So you can take one and pass it around. That's got the contact information for the CSA Coalition. And so they're the kind of the clearinghouse. They're like the first stop. And then I guess one thing I didn't mention, so part of the process for getting engaged, and this is how a lot of coaches work. And there may be other coaches. I know we've got at least one other coach in the house, and other coaches, we tend to invite people to just have conversations with us. So you can jump on a free phone call with any of us just to talk about, is coaching right for me? Is this even make sense? Is this a connection? Because it's really important that you, like Morgan pointed out so nicely, she already had some trust about Katie before she even connected with her. And then once she did connect with her, that was reaffirmed. And that can really accelerate the process when you feel a good connection with the person. And you don't know that until you get on a conversation, on a call with them. And so that's why most coaches just offer that, because we want to have that connection as well. And so I can speak for Katie and Angie, any of us are happy to get on a call with anybody just to talk through it, even to figure out, is coaching what makes the most sense. So that's that's the process. And then so the way to get access to us through the pilot program is there's a simple questionnaire through FareShare, and then the staff person there will, you may know, like, I want one of these, I want this person, you can ask, or you can say, I don't care, just pick one for me, or you can have calls with a couple people. Lots of ways. Other questions?
And I think with regard to the funding piece of that question, I'm pretty sure when I signed up for the coaching program, there's a question about, like, are you interested in receiving funding for, I think that's how it went. I don't remember 100%.
It'll ask if you're a vegetable grower and where you're at, because that's some of the stipulations with the grant. And then, yeah, they might. Good, yeah. Mm.
Storage facility and wash plant, so it's like an agribusiness.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have depression and anxiety.
Related to my farming. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that we've had that specific one. It's certainly not just for farm owners. It's for like someone, like anyone who's working on the farm, anyone who's, that feels a little farm adjacent, and that feels close enough to me. So I would say go ahead and apply, and then if there's any questions, that can be sorted out. So assume that it's open for you. Assume it's for you until, if you want to learn more. Yeah?
Are there opportunities for coaches to get involved in helping?
Yeah, good question. Are there opportunities for coaches? So we're keeping it for the pilot version of this, we're keeping it to these 3 coaches. However, our idea is to grow this thing. Our idea is for it to expand. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like moving forward, honestly. Like that's kind of TBD. If other coaches in the room have ideas or want to talk more about that, I certainly welcome it. Because the idea is just to make it available as widely as possible. And the more people that learn about it as a resource, then the more the merrier. Is kind of how we think about it. It's more about, like, what's the mechanism for that and what's it look like? Any thoughts you want to offer now?
I don't know what I don't know.
Don't know, you don't know. Nice.
What is being done to like ensure that there's like diversity amongst the
Well, not a ton so far. There's only 3 of us, and we're all white. And I think as we expand, like this idea of like bringing more coaches in, that's a really important thing for us to pay very close attention to. Yeah. Thank you. I see another hand. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of other end of the spectrum. They're not just coaches, but in the farmers that you work with or everything. Is there any limitations about size or I don't know anything else like that? Like you said, it's open.
Yeah, I mean, the funding's got some requirements around, Midwest vegetable growers, but in terms of who would we coach? Yeah, no, it's open. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I coach all kinds of folks. Like I'm coaching farmers through this program. I coach colleagues at the hospital. I coach through an organization that has put me in touch with like people working in businesses all over the world. So it's pretty open. It's really, yeah. That's what I'll say about that. What other questions are bubbling up? Or other topics that you're like, can we dive into this one? How would you 3B this thing? I'm debating whether to jump into another tool. Or actually, I think, yeah, please.
Is the concept that the folks will come directly to you, or like is there any future like plans or visionings to adapt like a trainer model where another farmer can take ownership and have like a peer-to-peer coaching group for like people in their region?
I like your thinking. So to answer the question, are there plans to do that? No, not yet. Like we're at the front end of this and just figuring this piece out. But I love that thought. I think one thing, so in my own coaching business, one thing somewhat related to that is a more of a group coaching model. So like we were kind of doing a little bit of group coaching in here, right? And that makes it more accessible. And everyone can still benefit and everyone can still learn. I think that's going to be an evolution in general. And it's going to be an evolution in my own coaching work. I'd like to see it be an evolution with this program, and then something like that could then also come out of it. I mean, to me, the bigger vision for coaching, yes, it's definitely like, okay, you're struggling with something, you need some help. Let's get you some relief right now. Let's get you some relief so that you can figure out how to do better now at your farm and your relationships, et cetera. But in the bigger picture, this is about growing a coach mindset in all of us. And that's what coaching does, is it helps you to develop your own coaching mindset so that you're coaching yourself eventually. And like that's like the things that you were describing, Morgan, like you're already coaching yourself through some of this. So initially it can be really helpful to have someone else help guide that process, but the whole point of it is to empower you to be able to do that on your own. And then I see once people develop an ability to coach themselves more, then it just becomes more natural to bring it to whatever group they're working with. So if you've got a team and you've got more of a coach mindset, then you're going to be modeling that and you can bring that to your team. But sometimes people are like, I don't even know what that means, everything you just said. So like, yeah, well then get a coach and like work through it a little bit more first, and then it becomes more clear. It becomes pretty automatic after a while. But I think there's all kinds of models. I want to share this story. Because one of the things I think coaching can do is it helps free up our brain from these rigid thinking patterns that we get stuck in, and it helps us get into our more creative mindset. And we need to be creative to help just get through our days sometimes, but definitely to solve some of these bigger issues, to run our businesses. You may have heard of this research study, but there was a research study done where they presented a task of building as tall of a structure as you could using dried spaghetti and marshmallows. And they brought together different groups of teams. They brought different teams together to take on this task. There were teams of engineers, teams of college business students, CEOs, like high executive leadership level in corporations. And I don't know if they had a group of organic farmers. That would have been fantastic. But they also had a group of kindergartners. And who do you think did the best? Yeah, why did the kindergartners do the best? What's that? They were creative, curious. What's that? No preconceptions. I don't know how this is supposed to go.
They used to working together, or they like?
The kindergartners? Yeah, so what allowed their curiosity and their creativity to come about is that they weren't comparing themselves to everyone else. Like everyone in these other groups were like, well, I don't want to look stupid, so I'm just going to hold back, or I'm going to overthink the problem before I take any action. I want to really think about the thing, and then maybe I'll take some action, but I don't want to look silly. And then there's the hierarchies within these groups. And the kindergartners, they didn't care about any of that. There's like, let me try. And they'd try to build the thing, and then it would break, and then someone else would be like, well, let me try. And so they got a lot more repetitions of trying in. And that's what allowed them to learn faster, and that's what got their tower taller within the time. So we all have that ability when we're young, and we all still have that ability in us. And there's just a lot of stuff culturally and otherwise that gets layered on top of that and makes it hard. And so, but there is a way to access it, even as an adult, no matter what your circumstances are. There is a way to access that. And I think that's what inspires me the most about coaching, is that it teaches you ways to get better access to that part of your brain. And all the neuroscience coming out now is phenomenal. Like, it's crazy. Like, they can actually show literally in an MRI that a different part of their brain is activated. So with this stuff. So don't get me geeking out on that. Anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I'm thinking about doing like a final round of takeaways. Okay. Yeah, so what we want to do is just wrap up, and I think we've got time. Let's just go around the room, and I'd love to hear. You don't have to offer anything if you don't want, but we'll go around the room, and everyone will have a chance to just say one thing that they appreciated about this workshop, or one thing that maybe you're taking away with you. Yeah, and let's wrap it up that way. You want to start us off? Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate meeting this woman.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's her name?
We are 1,200 miles apart in totally different industries, if you will.
Yeah.
And we have some commonalities.
Wonderful.
We discovered that in about 30 seconds.
Oh, and say your name in case we haven't gotten your name in the room as we go around. So what's your name?
David.
David. Thanks, David. Let's go to you. Nice. Van, thank you. Go ahead. George.
Appreciative of the work you've done on the pilot. I know how hard that is to put together a new concept and get it to fruition. And thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, George. Trevor. Nice. Thanks, Trevor.
But I think my takeaway is this is my first time coming to Marbleseed, and I came in just very low and anxious, and just with meeting so many people and doing this little group specifically, and already without coaching feeling more excited and less anxious about starting Marbleseed.
Wonderful.
And I love the tool. I do this actually all the time. I get to before I'm excited to, but even just showering.
It does. It does. It seems little, but it's not. Thank you.
Everybody, British again. Also my first time here at Marbleseed. I appreciate this space and your willingness to live in it and take feedback as you're building this new thing that you guys have. And then also the last example that you gave, the concept of failing forward to get to the
Diane.
Well, I'm sorry I missed part of it. So, sounds like I missed a lot going over to the next session. I just had not thought about coaching as something for farmers before, and so that's given me a lot to think about, and also to think of, different ways to think about things I get stuck on in my own life. So, yeah.
Thanks, Diane. You had.
Bjorn, again. Oh, I hate Zoom. Appreciate the mental health aspect of the coaching too. Just because obviously if you have issues that you need to help work out in practicality, it's nice to have access to that, but then also that it fills a gap. Because again, not only do my parents listen to me all the time, but I went to a therapist a few times, and they don't understand the farming and the agriculture, and it's tough because a lot of the issues are environmental of just being involved in the industry and everything that comes with that. So it's just nice that you guys provide kind of or help fill the gap between, farming and mental health basically. So appreciate that as well as the coaching. Like a one-stop shop is very nice to know about now.
Awesome. Thanks, Bjorn.
Yeah, my name is John. It's the last session on Saturday, and I presented the last workshop. I have no more words. But I really appreciate the workshop.
Thanks, John.
Laura, and I think this is a really nice way to wrap up the workshop. It kind of, it gives me a few tools to think about like this big bunch of information that I took from the workshop, because now there's like information overload and I have to figure out how that's going to be applied in my life. And I feel like this kind of sets the tone for sorting through some of those things.
Nice. Thanks, Laura.
And I'm excited to look into this, and I'm glad that you're doing it.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
David, it's my first time at Marbleseed and brand new farmer. So really just let me making more contacts and understanding, the resources that are out there. So this is a huge one to connect dots.
Cool. Thanks, David.
Jeff, and I'm grateful for the invitation just to write down a to-do list. It's something I've been putting off for a long time. And I've been going through most of this winter planting season just carrying a to-do list in my head.
Yeah.
The first thing I wrote down is draft the full project to-do list to open the farm season. So, yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks.
I'm Megan, and I received some coaching at church this past year, so it's been nice having a teaching assistant to also be reflective on the past year, and I'm grateful for it. So, and also some of the exercises we did is remembering to use them throughout the year.
Thanks, Megan.
Hey, I'm Amy. This is my first time coming here. I guess I'm just at the end of my energy level too, because I just keep thinking, yeah, bag it, bag it.
Bag all of it. Nice.
And then take the bag out of the house.
Thanks.
Melissa, I've been to Marbleseed many times, but I appreciate that there's some more sessions like this that are creeping into Marbleseed, and I've wanted that for a number of years. At the Land Stewardship Project in Minnesota, which I've been involved with a long time, at about the 3 to 5 year mark, there's a journey person class, and it involves a lot of questions about, like, if you're farming with a partner, how a lot of people get to the 3 to 5 year mark and they're like, I'm either getting divorced, or I'm out of here, or I'm not farming, and like getting past that hump, you do need some mental health tactics for how are you, doing the different tasks on the farm. Sometimes people need their own area that they're in charge of, and then someone help people stay with it.
Yeah.
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 Thanks. Morgan, what's your appreciation or takeaway?
Hi everyone, I'm Morgan. Still, Morgan 2.0, future Morgan here. My main takeaway and appreciation is for all of you. I'm really happy people showed up to this session. I was worried we were going to be talking to each other. I like talking to Doug, but it's much more meaningful to have others in the room. So thank you all for showing up, and thank you all for being vulnerable. It's not easy to acknowledge maybe that you're having a hard time, and so I think it's really awesome that you all, even within just your pairings, gave that a shot. So thank you.
Ditto to all of that. And yeah, thanks for showing up, but it really showing up. Like you showed up and you participated and engaged. So I really appreciate that. That makes these a lot more fun. And we will hang out, at least I'll be hanging out for a little bit afterwards if there's lingering questions that we didn't address. And otherwise, oh, I do, yeah. I'm going to wrap this up with a poem. One of my favorites. Oh, where's my poem? Do I? Yes. This poem to me represents what life can feel like on a daily basis sometimes, and what I'm attempting to do with it. It's from the 13th century Sufi poet Rumi, called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And with that, that's a wrap.